So welcome to Dynamic Foundry Group. Today we are have going for a webinar on a very interesting topic, that is introduction of Six Sigma, or basics of Six Sigma, you can say. We all know Six Sigma is a quality management tool which is mainly used to reduce or to understand the process deviation or process variations. And how to reduce process variation is a big important thing in reducing rejections, reducing various issues in the manufacturing, especially in the foundry, because there are many variables in the foundry as well. So for this, so we have got today our speaker, Mr. Guru Sridhar, who is from Bangalore. He's having his own consultancy firm as Guru Consultancy. He's working on various QC tools, various ISOTS activities, core tools, and tool lead management. So he has a vast experience as well about these topics and these tools. So he's a better hand to really give us idea, the clarity about these tools. So I think we should not waste time and we'll hand over the session to Mr. Sridhar. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kulkarni. Thank you.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening all. So today what we'll be covering is we'll be covering the basics of Lean and Six Sigma. So as we go along, we'll tell you what will be covered in Lean and what will be covered in Six Sigma. To start with a brief introduction about myself, I think some of you may be knowing me because you already attended a couple of sessions. So I'm also a mechanical engineer with Six Sigma Master Black Belt, 34 years of industrial experience in various companies. I worked in BEML, Autoliv, GE, Satyam, L&T, and Moog Aerospace. So some of the companies filed a couple of patents, written some articles, and what we are doing is also contributing to EHS at community development in the sense that we adopted a school in our village where we give interest-free loans, we give scholarship, then we give some infrastructure to the village because it's a small place. Matter of fact, this is the school. You can see the background. This is the hut-like structure. This is the school and college. And what we have donated is, we have donated this last year, costing about 1 lakh. So this is for the biology lab. So we want to give back something to the society. This is what we are doing since past 20 years. There's a CSR activity. Based out of Bangalore at this contact number, you can contact me anytime for any of the queries and we can discuss. This is in short about my background. Now, what we will be covering today is a little bit, we'll just try to understand before you go in for any project or process improvement using Six Sigma, Lean, or any tools. First, we should understand what is cost of quality. What is it that you're losing if you don't follow the quality systems? Then we will talk a little bit on Lean because Lean and Six Sigma goes hand in hand. Then we'll talk about the concepts of Six Sigma. Then the two methodologies which is there in Six Sigma, that is the DMAC and DFSS methodology. Then maybe we'll see a few applications of Six Sigma, where it is used, which department it is used in, and then which industries use Six Sigma. As a matter of fact, many industries use. So we'll just see the highlights of those industries. To start with, you know about the cost of quality or cost of poor quality, anything. So what will happen if you don't follow quality? Not following quality can be in any department or it can be in any phase of the project management. It can be the first phase, last phase, middle, it can be anywhere. If you don't follow the quality systems and it goes to the customer, this is what happens. You might have seen the product recalls of Audi, Takata airbag, Volkswagen, model, Bridgestone tires, or you might have heard of Apple phones, Samsung phones, which caught fire. There are so many instances which talks about the cost of poor quality. There have been product recalls. There are medical fields also, the products have been recalled. You take any field, FMCG products, there's a product recall. So why it has happened? Numerous reasons. We'll not go into details of why and how, but that is the problem with not following the quality systems or quality standards. Next, if you want to improve the quality, what has to be done? Taguchi says cost is more important than quality. Yes, everybody knows that cost is very important, but quality is the best way to reduce cost. You improve quality, the cost will reduce because your overheads will reduce, your firefighting time will reduce, your product life cycle, um, time to market will reduce, your rejection will reduce. So many things will reduce that because of improving quality. And of course, there is a break even. So beyond that, again, it will start increasing, but in the sense that quality, improve the quality, cost will reduce. Now, quality improvement, how do you say what is quality and how do you improve quality? You take any process. You have some process which is happening and there is a spike. It can be up or it can be down depending on the type of process, depending on the metric what you are having. There can be a spike. If you want to improve the spike and make it even, this is the quality improvement. If you want to bring the baseline from here to here, that is the improvement. What you have to understand is what tools to be used. If you don't know what tool to be used, how it is used, and when it is used, then it will be like these 6 or 7 blind men trying to identify an elephant. Each person will tell it is different thing by looking at the elephant or seeing the elephant. All put together, it will not make sense. It doesn't become an elephant, right? So you'll have to understand which tool to use and when to use, and you have to understand all the tools before you start using it. There are many tools which can be used. Now thinking about improving the quality. There are various phases in the project management or project life cycle where you can use. Predominantly, it falls under, you know, that it is PDCA cycle. Be it any activity, be it any process, be it any standard, ISO 9000, aerospace or medical, anything, they say it follows the PDCA cycle. Plan, do, check, act. So in that PDCA cycle, you have plan, you have control and improve. In control phase, what can be controlled is using your RCA, relentless root cause analysis. This is not RCA, it is RCCA or RRCA or anything. And what it does is it tries to reduce the chronic waste or COP or COPQ. Because there are spikes, it will try to even out. Next, how do you do that? You come to the improve phase, that is the breakthrough implement. Use Lean or Six Sigma, or use any tools to start with. If you are not aware of this, you can use basic 7QC tools and improve to some extent. What improves, you go back to DFSS. That means you have done the process improvement. Once you do the process improvement, it will come to a limit. Once it reaches the limit, then you go back and redesign your product if you want to reduce cost. Because there is a limit for improving the process. You cannot keep on improving the process forever. It's not possible, be it any process. So once it reaches a threshold, then you have to improve the product or redesign the product. Maybe you can change the material, reduce the number of components. You can do whatever you want by, you have to improve the product and again bring down the cost. That is the cycle. So first it is planning, then control, then improve. This is what you do in each phase. Next, if you do all this, then how do you measure? What you measure is called as a metric. So everything which has to be measured, which has to be improved, should have a metric. That is what you call it as KPI or SLA or metrics. Anything in any industry, you have metrics for every department. Be it production department or inspection department or manufacturing or design R&D, you take any department, you have some metrics against which you measure. So unless and until you have the proper metrics defined, you cannot measure or you cannot improve. So that is the basics for any quality improvement. Matter of fact, Six Sigma relies only on metrics, only on data. If you don't have data, you cannot do anything because Six Sigma is based on statistics. So you require data. Now, this is the basic to start with any Lean or any Six Sigma project to start to any process improvement as well. Now we'll go into Lean, then we'll go into Six Sigma. We'll understand what is Lean. This is a short video.
Is useless. That's a pretty good definition for what we call today the lean approach. And when we think of lean, most of us think of the Toyota production system because that's what made lean famous.
Were you able to hear the video? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, I'll play back.
Interestingly enough, however, that quote is from Henry Ford Sr. You see, the principles of lean production were first established at Ford Motor Company, and they were recorded in several books Mr. Ford wrote in the 1920s. Lean and just-in-time are inventions of Henry Ford. These principles were updated and refined by Toyota after the Second World War, and they helped Japan to become a manufacturing powerhouse. Lean concepts were reintroduced to America in the 1980s as U.S. auto manufacturers were being seriously challenged by Toyota and other Japanese car makers. At that time, there was a lot of pressure to improve quality and to reduce costs. And that's what lean is all about. Lean is defined as the elimination of all non-value added activities or waste. Although most people associate lean with the production floor, the principles apply equally well to all parts of the organization and its supply chain. Examples of waste within the organization include unnecessary steps or activities, rework, waiting time, unnecessary movement of people or material, and excess inventory. The goal of lean is to find those areas of waste and to permanently eliminate them. Lean efforts are greatly enabled by a strong focus on continuous improvements and performance measurements. Lean is facilitated by such things as employees who are empowered to make decisions and solve their own problems, highly cross-trained workers operating flexible equipment, efficient layout of floor space, standard processes, just-in-time delivery, and rapid machine setup and changeover. We see the benefits of lean efficiencies through reduced cycle times, greater production output, decreased inventories, and higher levels of quality in all aspects of our work. It's not easy to implement lean and just-in-time principles into your everyday business operations. It takes time and a lot of hard work. The focus must be on discipline and attention to detail. I mentioned a minute ago that the goal of lean is to permanently eliminate the sources of waste. That goal directly connects lean to managing and continuously improving processes. Lean organizations have simple processes that are under continuous review for improvement opportunities. To permanently eliminate waste, they work towards error-proofing processes and strategies. They use simple tools and simple methods that can be applied to any process, whether it's on the office floor or the shop floor. Above all else, lean depends upon establishing simple processes. In fact, simplicity is at the heart of the Toyota production system. At Toyota University, managers are trained to seek what the company calls the elegant solution. At Toyota, the most elegant solution is the simplest solution. To truly understand lean and how to apply its principles at your company, you must first understand waste. Do you see any signs of waste in your organization? Long and complicated processes, for example, that might result in missed schedules. Or perhaps you find something as straightforward as a high rework rate for one particular product in your factory. As you prepare for the implementation of Lean Six Sigma, this is a really good place to start.
Okay, this was a brief introduction to lean. I was trying to explain what is lean about, and what is it, where it is used, and all that. So it can be used in any industry. Matter of fact, it can be used in hospitals, it can be used in manufacturing industry, service industry, any industry. All quality tools are same across the board. Now, how to lean? Some of the examples of some of the lean tools. One is, I told you that you should have metrics. That means you should have data to start your process improvement activity. Once you have the data, that is your business process improvement, the data or the metrics have to be smart. The goals have to be smart. That is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. So that is how you identify the metrics, identify the goals. That is one requirement. Other one is your Six Sigma approach. Six Sigma approach is basically a DMAIC approach, DMAIC, define, measure, analyze, improve, control. It is not DFSS because that is for new product development. So DMAC is for process improvement. The other one is your maybe Kaizen, all small group activities or quality circle activity. There are many things which can be done in the small groups. So those are all small group activities that also can be employed. The final one is the common sense, most neglected. So matter of fact, the common sense, if you use common sense, many of the problems will be solved. That could be the first step to start with. So it's not necessary to go in for big tools, high-end tools, high-funda tools, just to say that we have used the tools. Common sense will also work. So this is some of the ways you can introduce Lean or implement Lean. And what is Lean? Here we talked about 7 wastes or 8 wastes in Lean. So we'll talk about the same wastes in a medical manufacturing setup, medical setup, because everybody knows about industries. We are working on industries. We know what are the wastes in a industrial setup. In a medical industry or medical setup, example, a hospital, the wastes are, first one is defects. It is downtime, DOWNTIME. That is the acronym which is used. D stands for defects. It can be medication error, wrong procedure, wrong patient, missing information. It can be anything. Then O stands for overproduction. Pills given out early, treatment done to balance staff, etc. Next is W, means it is waiting. You know what is waiting? Waiting for bed or assignments or discharge or paperwork or discharge summary or whatnot. W, N for not clear with respect to the medication, wrong patient. There's a mismatch of patients. It has happened in many hospitals. Missing information. There are many things which are not clear. Then T stands for transportation, moving the same patient in and out here and there. It happens again, depends on the layout of the hospital. That is your T for transportation. I for inventory, that is inventory of linen, pharma stocks, medicines, office supplies, and all that. Then M stands for motion. Again, searching for patient, that is small motions. Transportation is a larger one. Then E is excess processing, retesting, more paperwork, etc. So this is downtime, DOWNTIME, which is the acronym in a hospital setup or a medical setup. As I told you, Lean is universal. It can be used in any setup. And what are the Lean tools? There are hundreds of tools which comes under the umbrella of Lean. You call it as JIT. There are so many tools under that. You call it as Kaizen. Again, there are many tools under Kaizen. Then Jidoka, Kanban, Ichuka, standardization, stabilization, everything. But basically, it starts with your 5S activity, that is your TPS, TPM activity. That is the foundation. You start from 5S and start building on it. So each tool of Lean is a topic by itself. It's maybe a 1-day topic or a 1.5 days or 2 days topic, depending on the tool which you choose. But we'll not go into the details of the tools. Next, Lean and Six Sigma together. Why is it called as LSS? Many places they call it as LSS. LSS means Lean Six Sigma. So what does Lean do? Lean is a rapid improvement of tools focused on improving process speed, elimination of the wastes. Either you call it a 7 waste or 8 waste, some call it as 9 waste, it depends. So everything all put together, it improves the efficiency. That is, define the value, measure the value, analyze, improve, control the process, which is leading to improved efficiency. Next, Six Sigma does what Six Sigma does is breakthrough process improvement focused on eliminating the chronic problems and reducing variation. That means it improves the effectiveness. So any process you take, you have to improve the efficiency and improve the effectiveness. I think you know the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. So Six Sigma follows DMAIC, that is define, measure, analyze, improve, control. What each phase does, I'll tell you later in short. So Six Sigma does, what it does is improved effectiveness. So both put together, Lean and Six Sigma, what it does is integrates the power of Six Sigma tools at a faster rate of improvement, maximize the shareholder value and increases customer delight. That is, this is the Lean approach, this is the Six Sigma approach. Both together is supposed to improve the customer satisfaction or customer delight or improve the process, anything, whatever metric you have, improves it. So which come first? Again, it depends. Some say first you have to use Lean and then Six Sigma. Some say no, you can use Six Sigma independently, but it's always better to use Lean first because it stabilizes the process, then you follow Six Sigma. Then you adopt Six Sigma. It depends on case-to-case basis. Now, what are the methods which I just told you? Lean and Six Sigma. Lean removes the waste, increases the speed, removes NVA item activities, that is the non-value-added activity. Non-value-added activity means the activity for which the customer will not pay. That is non-value-added activity. Fixes the connection, focuses on the customer. That means it improves the speed. Six Sigma reduces the variation. That is the most important thing. First, any process you take, you have to reduce variation because you cannot have variability in a process. If you have variability, you cannot predict the outcome of the process. The prediction will be very erratic. So first you have to reduce the variation. Next, improve quality. Reduce variation at each remaining step, that is your process and sub-process. Optimize the process. Finally, focus on the customer. So what it does is improves the speed and the accuracy. Both together is your LSS methodology, that is the Six Sigma methodology. Now, that is the background of Lean. Now we will go to Six Sigma. We'll see in brief what is Six Sigma, what it does, and what are the different phases of Six Sigma. I told you there are two types of methodologies, DMAC and DFSS. We'll see what is DMAC, we'll see what is DFSS. And in DMAC, what are the different phases and what each phases does. We'll briefly look into that. Again, this is a short video on Six Sigma.
Is Six Sigma. Six Sigma is a project-based approach for improving effectiveness and efficiency. It is a disciplined, customer-focused, data-driven approach for improving the performance of processes, products, or services. Now, the term Six Sigma can be used to refer to a philosophy, a performance metric, or a methodology. As a philosophy, Six Sigma strives for perfection in achieving effectiveness and efficiency in meeting customer and business requirements. Six Sigma is proactive and prevention-based instead of reactive and detection-based. As a performance metric, Six Sigma refers to a level of quality that is near perfection. It strives for a defect level that is no more than 3.4 parts per million. Sigma is a letter in the Greek alphabet used to represent standard deviation, a measure of variation. A Six Sigma process is very consistent with very little variation and therefore has a very small standard deviation, so small that the distance from the mean or the average to the nearest specification limit is equivalent to 6 standard deviations or 6 sigmas. As a result, only 3.4 parts per million or less are out of specification. As a methodology, Six Sigma refers to DMAIC or DMAIC, a methodology for improvement named after its 5 phases of define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Using this prescriptive approach, a team focuses on improving what's important to customers and uses data analysis to diagnose and improve the performance of processes, products, or services. So now that we've covered Six Sigma at a very high level, let's walk through a simple example of what Six Sigma can do. Take the typical experience of calling a cable company for installation or repair. You call them and they say, the earliest we can get a technician out to your house is 10 working days from today. And the technician will be there sometime between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Fast forward 10 days, you have taken a day off work to stay home and wait for the technician. And you wait, and you wait. Then the technician either does not show or shows up late past 5 p.m. Wouldn't it be nice if instead they said, we can get a technician out to your house tomorrow between 8 and 8:30 a.m. And the next day, the technician shows up at 8 a.m. Wow, that in a nutshell is what Six Sigma can do. We'll go over the nuts and bolts of how this is done. But the most important thing to grasp from this video is that Six Sigma is a project methodology for improvement. I've seen Six Sigma projects reduce patient wait times in hospitals, minimize defects in manufacturing, cut down billing errors, and improve guest experience in hotels. Six Sigma works, and I can't wait to share how it works with you.
Okay, this is what Six Sigma does. So basically what he is telling is Six Sigma is used predominantly first to reduce variation. First you reduce the variation. Once the variation is reduced, then shift the mean, improve the mean. So what Six Sigma does is it does both, shifting of the mean and reducing the variation. That is the power of Six Sigma. Okay, in Six Sigma, you have different rules. That is, you have green belt, black belt, master belt. Below that, you have something called as yellow belt also, but it's of no use. Below that, you have white belt, that is white belt and yellow belt. It is very, very elementary. White belt is just an overview of what is Six Sigma. That is all, nothing beyond that. Yellow belt is also introduction to Six Sigma, nothing much. You cannot do anything with knowing yellow belt. As a matter of fact, what we are talking today is similar to yellow belt. It is not fully yellow belt because we are not covering much of it, but it is almost like an yellow belt or a white belt. The first real course is your green belt methodology, green belt certification. So if you do a green belt, then you will be entitled to do a project because you will have learned something about Six Sigma. You can work on your own or mentor few people. That is the lowest level of Six Sigma. Next level, you have the black belt. That means you can lead multiple projects, multiple Six Sigma projects, and you can guide the green belts. Next level is your master black belt. That is MBB. It's called as master black belt, who train or mentor the black belt and also the green belts. So this is at the highest level where you talk about or learn all the tools used in DMAC and DFSS. Then you do big projects leading to huge cost savings. So these are the different certifications which are there in Six Sigma. And anybody can do this. There's no restriction. Only thing is that you will have to understand the tools and deploy it and do a project. Only then you will understand the Six Sigma methodology. If you don't do a project, you will not understand the methodology. It is a waste. Now, what is Six Sigma? As I told you, it does two things. You take any process, there is a shift with respect to the target. This is your process. This is your process mean. This is your process mean and this is the target. So there is a shift in the mean. And here excessive variation because there is a huge variation between your LSL and USL or the lower limit to a higher limit. So what Six Sigma does is it centers the process and reduces the spread. That means this is centered and the variation is reduced. This is what you achieve by using Six Sigma. So it centers the process and reduces the variation because customers feel the variation more than the mean. As you saw in that video, the customer will be frustrated if the variation is very high because so much of uncertainty will be there. So to reduce that uncertainty is nothing but reducing the variation or the spread. Then you shift the mean with respect to the target. You shift it and it will be easier. This is what Six Sigma does. This is in short the pictorial representation of Six Sigma. 3 Sigma means 3 standard deviation between the target and USL or LS, any one side. Six Sigma means 6 standard deviations between your target and USL or LS, any one side. This is the basic definition of Six Sigma. And what is standard deviation? I will not go into details. That is what he explained in the video also. It is standard deviation is nothing but what you fit and how much you fit within each part of this divided by 6. That is standard deviation. So when we go into details of green belt, we'll cover standard deviation in depth. So this is what Six Sigma does. Now, how do you quantify Six Sigma? How do you say that you achieved Six Sigma? These are some of the examples. If you say that you are following 3.8 Sigma, that is nothing but you are 99% good. Because many people say that I am very good, I am almost good, 99% good. If you say that your claim is 99% good, that means you have 20,000 lost articles mail per hour, 15 minutes delay in each unsafe work, 5,000 incorrect surgical operations per week. These are the metrics, these are actual data based on 99% good. If you improve this to Six Sigma level, that means you are still 99.999% good. You still have an error to make, you have a scope for making error. So if it is Six Sigma, this reduces 20,000 lost articles, reduces to 7 lost articles per hour. 15 minutes each day of unsafe water comes down to 1 minute every 7 months. 2 short landings at almost daily. It reduces to 1 short landing in 5 years. This is the quantum of improvement what you get using Six Sigma. Lakh wrong drug prescription each year reduces to 13 wrong prescriptions each year. See the level of improvement what you get using Six Sigma. You might say that even this is bad. Yes, this is bad because you have to improve further. If you take aerospace industry or satellite or any mission activities, then this is also bad because you want higher accuracy. Otherwise, the whole mission will fail. Suppose it's landing on the moon, landing on the Mars, what they have done already just done. If there is any slight variation, the whole mission will fail, costing billions of dollars. So you want higher accuracy. You will have to go for 9 sigma, 10 sigma, beyond that. But that is the level of perfection what you get. Now, with respect to the process improvement, 2 sigma level means you have ppm, 308,000 ppms. 3 sigma, it reduces to 66,000. 4 sigma reduces to 6,000. 6 sigma is 3.4 defects per million opportunity. It is per million opportunity. It is not only ppm. It is not parts per million. It is parts per million opportunity. There's a difference between parts per billion and parts per million opportunity. There's a big difference. So the definition of Six Sigma is 3.4 defects per million opportunity. You'll have to remember that. You cannot say it is 3.4 defects per million. Okay. Now, what is Six Sigma? You know what is Six Sigma. We will tell you what is not Six Sigma. It is not an end to itself. It is not a replacement for engineering or scientific process knowledge. It is not applicable to every process in its entirety. And it is not only a set of tools. So don't say that if you use Six Sigma, everything will be perfect. No, it also depends on your engineering capability and engineering knowledge. Six Sigma will only guide you and tell you which is good, which is bad, which is better, which path to take, because it is based on statistics. Statistics can go wrong, statistics can be right, based on the data. Based on the number of data, statistics normally would be right, but it all varies. Again, depends on how much of data you have taken, from where you have taken that data. Is the data good enough? Is it representing the full population? Depends on so many cases, but normally it is right. So, but finally, don't blame the tool saying that it is not working. So Six Sigma is a structured and data-driven approach to deliver improved customer quality. It is a measurement of our process and product capability. So everything is based on data. And as I told, DMAC and DFSS are the vehicles which is used for Six Sigma. DMAC is for process improvement, DFSS is for new product development. Now we'll see what is DMAC and what is DFSS. So Six Sigma has got DMAC to improve the existing process. It has got DFSS, that is for new design, new process. New design can be a product design or a process design, anything. And all of this comes under your project management. So project management can be for anything. Again, it can be for a new design, new product, new process improvement, or it can be for new project itself. It can be for anything. So when you talk about process improvement or project management, it for NPD or NPI process, you have both DMAC and DFSS put together. This is your DMAC roadmap, that is define, measure, analyze, improve, control. First, you define the problem, then measure it, what we can do to improve it, then analyze the process, analyze what you have measured, then improve whatever defects you identified, then control whatever improvement you have put in place. It is nothing but your PDCA cycle. Plan, do, check, act. What do you do in plan? You plan for the activity, do whatever you have planned, check whatever you have done, that is PDCA is act what you have done. If it is okay, go forward. If it's not okay, go back to PDC. It is same similar approach is your DMAIC. Now we'll see each one of them. What is DMAIC? Define, you have so many tools which comes under define. Project scope, charter, business impact, affinity diagram, etc. There are many tools which are part of define phase. Measure phase, there are many tools. Similarly, analyze, improve, control. It's not that these are the only tools, you can use other tools also, but basically, in general, these are the tools that are used in DMAIC. So what is define? First, the most important in the define phase is your coming out with a project charter. That is the output of define phase. Project charter means it will tell you a roadmap, it will tell you a scope for the project as to what is done, what is the metric, what is the problem statement. It is like your A3 sheet. It is similar to that. And DMAIC, when you start, when you finish your timeline, what are the risks, what are the opportunities, what are the constraints, everything. Finally, it is signed off by all stakeholders in the company. This is called as a project charter. And the template varies from industry to industry. You can use any template you want, but basically what is required is a project charter in the define phase. Without project charter, you cannot start the project. So in the project charter, what you do is your SIPOC map. That is SIPOC. SIPOC means supplier, input, process, output, customer. Some companies call it as SIPOC. Some companies, they call it as COPIS. That is COPIS, because they feel that customer is first. So they call it in the reverse order. Some companies, they call it in SIPOC. Both are same. So you identify the SIPOC or the COPIS, that is the process map. Then identify the process for improvement, break it down further into a detailed process, then work on this process. If this is also a big process, again, identify the sub-process and expand further and start working. This is how do you define the SIPOC map. To give you an example of SIPOC, supplier, input, process, output, customer, you take an example of barista, that is your delivery, that is your fast food restaurant. Any fast food restaurant, KFC, or it can be anything. You have a supplier, that is your patron or grocery, or these are the suppliers. What is the input? Input to the process is your lunch order, that is the order which you give when you go to a restaurant, or the ingredients and the packings, whether it is take-home delivery or you eat there. That is your input. Based on this input, he processes it. That is the customer arrives, takes the order, delivers to the kitchen, he gives it to the kitchen, they prepare it, pack it, and give you. Either it is takeaway or whether it is dine-in. It is depends on it. Then the output is whatever you ordered, you got it. Then the customer is your patron. That is, you are the customer. This is a simple example of your SIPOC. So any process you take, it can be identified as SIPOC. Supplier, input, process, output, customer. Like writing a turtle diagram. You can use a turtle diagram to depict any process, right? It is similar to that, similar to a turtle diagram. So in the define phase, what are the outputs or what are the outcome of the define phase? You come out with a business case, come out, that is why you're doing a project, what is the outcome of it, then the project charter, you sign up the project charter, you arrive at a SIPOC process map, then you can use any tool you want, like a Kano analysis or the voice of the customer, to come out with CTQ. CTQ is critical to quality. So these are the things what you do in the define phase. This is the first phase of Six Sigma. Define the process to be improved. Set the key performance output variable, that is your CTQ. Identify this CTQ and this forms your baseline to improve. This is the define phase. After define, DMAIC, you have finished define, next is measure. Most important in your measure phase is identify or try to understand what is the population and what is the sample. That is first thing you have to understand. Population, as you know, it is the complete, the whole set of data is your population. Sample is a true representation of the population. That is the definition of sample. It is just not a part of the population. It is a true representation. True representation means all the data points in your sample are exactly same as in the population. That is the meaning and that is the definition. So once you identify the population and the sample properly, if your sample size is correct, and if the sample size is taken properly, then that means this truly represents the population. So whatever you do on the sample will hold good for the population. That is the assumption. So basic thing is you have to understand sampling techniques in this phase. The next thing what you have to understand is the data. You should understand what are the types of data. There are two types of data. predominantly. One is objective data and one is subjective data. Objective data, you have pictures, words, and numbers. We will not worry about this. And numbers are attribute and variables. So what we will be talking is the data with respect to attribute data and variable data. Next one is subjective data, scale data, ranking data. We will not worry about this. Even though this is part of Six Sigma rating, we will not talk much. So what is important is the attribute data or variable. I think you know what is attribute data, what is variable data. Attribute data is your pass or fail, yes or no, go, no go, 0 and 1 is your attribute data. Variable data is your continuous data, like your height, weight, length, measurement, temperature, pressure, all that is your variable data. So when we talk about Six Sigma, you have both. So if your data is attribute, then all the tools which you are using is different. If your data is variable, then all the tools which you use for analysis are different. You cannot mix both. So there are so many tools in Six Sigma which are different for attribute data, which are different for variable data. Then what are the characteristics of the data? The basic things, that is your statistics, which is required is the central tendency. That is your mean, median, mode. You should understand this. Then we talk about variation. This is what we saw when we started about Six Sigma, when I told the definition, that it reduces variation and shifts the mean. That is, what is this? Variation, when you talk about variation, we talk about range, standard deviation, variance, and quartile. There are some more terms these are the commonly used. So you should understand what is range, what is standard deviation, variance, and quartile. All this represents or characterizes a variation. Mean, median, mode characterizes the mean. That is the mean data. That is central tendency. Both together is your characteristics of the data. What Six Sigma does is it reduces this and shifts this. This is about data. You have to understand this. Next, variation we saw in that example in that video. When we talk about variation, why is variation important? This is a pictorial representation of variation. You cannot talk about mean, because even here, the mean of the rope may be same or maybe higher than what is required. But in one place, if it is very thin, you cannot rely on mean because it will cut here. Right? So it is not the average that we are worried about. It is the variation that you are worried about. Variation should not be there. Variation should be within the allowable specification limits. If the variation is high, then your project or your process will not be acceptable and it is not predictable. So first thing what you have to do is reduce the variation. Now, where all do you get variation from? There are various places which induces variation in the process. One may be poor design. Another is the customer specifications can change, it keeps on varying. Other one is measurement system, your MSC analysis, that is your SPC techniques, what we talk about. Insufficient process capability, that is your CP, CPK process capabilities, or it can be skills and behavior of the operator or the persons working on it. That also causes variation. So there are various areas or various places where variation sets in into the process or a manufacturing process. Or it need not be manufacturing, it can be even process, any process. So you'll have to take care of pro design. How do you take care of pro design? This is by your proper design, that is your DFSS methodology. Changing needs, again, maybe because of this can be by training or improving the skill of the person. Measurement system, MSCI, SPC techniques. Again, it's part of DMAC. Process capability, CP, CPK. Again, it is the DMAC process. Skills and behavior, competency measurement is by, again, training or something, or following the process or having a work instruction in place or SOP in place. So there are various ways in which you can improve or reduce the variation. Now, why do you say it is important? I told you about CP and CPK. So you have a process launch. When you talk of IATF standards also, you have PPAP, which is first phase and production launch, right? So you have LS and USL. So you have a prototype. Pre-launch phase, there is a lot of variation. As and when the process improves, it goes towards the production phase or it goes to the customer, the variation is supposed to reduce. It has to reduce. Only then it can be supplied or given to the customer. While doing that, what is required is what you come across is your process capability, that is your CP and CPK. So this is what pictorially it represents. CP is the process index that talks about the variation or the centering of the process. Is it too wide or is it too narrow? The narrower it is better, because the more the narrower, the CP improves, higher the CP value. And CPK talks about the shift of the process, whether it is shifting, whether it is centered or non-centered, or is it towards the LSL or towards the USL. So more it is centered, the better, because your CPK value is higher. So what is required is higher CP and higher CPK. The higher the better. So this is the most important step or most important thing what you do in this phase, that is measure phase. So sources of variation, we spoke about this: observed process, process variation, actual process variation, and measurement system variation. Process variation can be long-term or short-term. Measurement system variation can be because of gauge and operator. Because of operator, we call it as reproducibility. Because of the gauge, you have many variations. Most important is repeatability. Then calibration, stability, linearity, bias, and all that is part of your gauge. So this and this is your R&R, gauge R&R. When we talk about, we tell it is gauge, repeatability, and reproducibility. Repeatability is for gauge, reproducibility is for operators. So these are the two things which you take care in this phase of activity. To address the actual variation due to the measurement system, that is your MSA, measurement system analysis, has to be done. Once you've done and when you feel that the measurement system is okay, it is capable, only then you go forward and use that gauge. So that is the very important step to be done. In the measure phase, what you do finally, the output of measure phase is you measure the activity, develop the metrics for each one, that is your CPOC map, then funnel the projects, see what is important and you act on it, you prioritize on that, collect the data with respect to that, perform gauge R&R. You can use any tool you want, see what is your process capability, CP and CPK, whether it is low or high. If it is high, it is good. If it is low, you improve on it, because what you cannot improve, you cannot measure. And then track the current process capabilities. This is what you do in measure phase. So we have seen what you do in define, measure. Next is analyze. In the analyze phase, it talks about the statistics, inferential statistics. Because here what we talk is based on your sample. We have discussed and seen the definition of sample, because if your sample size is not right, then your population data will be wrong. If your sample size is correct, your population, your analysis of the sample is right, and your analysis of the population will be right. So it all depends on the sample size, the correct sample what you have taken. The example what is given when you cook a rice or a boil a rice. You take a sample and see whether it is boiled properly or cooked properly or not. If that is okay, that means the whole rice is okay. So you decide your decision is based on the sample. This is your inferential statistics. Next thing is your hypothesis. Hypothesis means there are two types of errors. One is type 1 error, another one is type 2 error. Type 1 error is, in short, a jailing an innocent person. Innocent person put to jail. Type 2 error, in short, means a guilty person is set free. Okay. So these are the types of hypothesis. Hypothesis is null hypothesis, that is H0 and HA, alternate hypothesis. We'll not go into details of this. And you should just understand what is H0 and what is HA. H0 means it is null hypothesis. That means both are same. So in this type 1 and type 2, which is more important or which is more dangerous? More dangerous is your serious error is type 1 error, because you're jailing an innocent person. And how you do this, what action you take, all that is part of hypothesis, and this is where statistics comes into picture in this phase, analyze phase. There are some tools, there are some statistics involved, you'll have to understand that. And why do you say that this is important? Because your type 1 error and type 2 error, because your type 1 and a type 2 error is based on this. Type 1 error is telling this, you are pregnant. Type 2 error is you are not pregnant. This is the danger of having type 1 and type 2 error. And what is more dangerous is your type 1 error. That means you have incorrectly rejected a good software or anything, any issue. Type 2 error is you have erroneously accepted a defective system. That means your supplier problem or your customer problem. coming to reality or real life situation. That means you have accepted a bad part, or you accepted a good part. This is your type 1 error and type 2 error. Now, how do you reduce that? You have a lot of tests which can be done using hypothesis test. As I told you, it is for discrete data or continuous data. Discrete data, I told you the difference between discrete data and continuous. If it is discrete data, you use a chi-square test. If it is continuous data, you check for the means and variances. If it is means, you use all these tests, hypothesis test. If it is variance data, if you are comparing variances, you do these tests, chi-square test, F-test, and all. Each test is different. And there are many more tests. All that is part of your hypothesis testing. Again, you need not know too much of statistics. It is not required because you have a software which is called as Minitab. It will do the work for you. You just input the data, you'll get the result. But you should understand what data to input and how do you read the results and how do you interpret the result. That is important. So this is about hypothesis testing in define, measure, analyze phase. So in the analyze phase, the output of analyze phase will be process analysis, value-added and non-value activity, then do a root cause analysis if required, then hypothesis testing. What type of hypothesis testing? Again, depends on the type of data, whether it is discrete data or continuous data. Based on that, use the proper hypothesis test. You can use a regression analysis if required, DOE if required, all that tools, whatever tool is appropriate, you should use, because to review the process to determine the root cause is the primary outcome of the analyze phase. After the analyze phase, you have DMAIC, that is I is improve. Then is control. In improve phase, whatever you analyze, you try to improve that. So if you want to improve, you have to check whether what data you collected, does it make sense or does it not make sense? Because all the data what you collect may not be right. It may not make sense, because data shows life expectancy increased when the divorce rate went up. Is there any relation between this and this? No, it is rubbish data. This is because you have not selected the data properly. Your data points are not right. Your sample size is not right. That is why you get this type of relationship. There is no relation between this and this. Similarly, there is no relation between isolated sales and number of shark attacks. You cannot have this correlation. So correlation does not imply causation. A third variation may be lurking that causes both X and Y to vary. That means it is X and Y to vary. If the data is like this and it doesn't make sense, that means something is wrong. You identify what is wrong. That is what is called a stratification. That stratification is nothing but one of your 7QC tools. So use that 7QC tools principles, use stratification and see what is wrong with this data and analyze properly. Collect the proper data, then you will get a relationship. Once you get the relationship, you can work on it. That is your improve phase. Next tool, what you can use in improve phase is your FME. It can be design FME or it can be process FME. It can be anything. It need not be FME, you can use any tool. Many tools are there to be used in this phase, improve phase. So improve phase, what you do, you use a CB analysis, cost benefit analysis, select the solution, assess the risk, then pilot it, do a batch production, see whether what you have improved is okay or not okay, whether it is working or not working, then come out with the implementation plan as to how you will implement this in the long run. What is your sample size, then how many production runs will you do to see the final results. This is what you do in improve phase, because pilot and implement is the key output of improve phase. And improve the process performance to optimize. That is, you optimize the process performance. By doing this, using control chart, using hypothesis testing, using all the tools or FME or risk analysis, whatever it is, whatnot, you have many tools. Using all that, you optimize the production process or your any process. This is the output of improve phase. The last phase is your control phase. So in the control phase, you collect the data and see where the data falls, whether it is comes under the common cause or is in the special cause. I think you know what is special cause, what is common cause. We'll not go into details. Common cause means present all the time, have a small effect, results in random variation. Special cause is beyond that is not always present, comes once in a while, and you know the problem, you know the cause for that. It can be attributed to a single failure or single cause, that is called as special cause. So you remove the special causes, then it will come under common cause. So all the process which is working will be having common causes. So identify the common causes. Next, once you identify, the next thing what you have to do is your process stability and capability. Process capability we saw, that is your process CP and CPK. Process stability is nothing but your lean, making it lean. Look for the pattern of variation. Should there be a random? Look for presence of special causes. Remove the special causes. Then the process has to have only common causes. That is what is stability of the process. Once the process is stable, then you talk about capability. Without the process being stable, you cannot talk about process capability. This is in your CP and CPK, process capability index, which we saw earlier. So this you can do only after you stabilize the process. So you have to do this in the control phase. Then, as I told you, you can use 7QC tools, any of the 7QC tools, measure the quality. You have management review, you can use check sheet, control sheets, histogram, scatter plot, cause and effect, anything. Whatever is appropriate, use those appropriate tools. Then the SPC, that is your SPC techniques, what we are talking about in your control phase. You have 4 control phases, the 4 situations. That is, one is out of control, second one is in control with special causes, third one is in control but not capable, fourth one is in control and also capable. So what you have to remember is this, don't forget, out of control situation, then in control situation, in control but not capable, then in control and capable. So what is required is this. You have to ensure that all the data what you collect, all the sample what you collect comes under this phase, this category. That is always in control and capable. Capable means your process capability, CP, CPK should be high. That is what is capable process. So this is what your statistical process control means, SPC. To do that, what are the control charts you use? Again, depends on the data. I told you if it is attribute data, you use different control charts. If it is attribute data and defective data, you use NP chart and P chart. If it is attribute data and you talk about counts, use P chart, U chart, and C chart. If it is continuous data and depending on the subgroup size, you use the XMR chart, XBAR R chart, XMR chart. There are many charts which can be used. But these are the common ones which are being used. And all this is your normal distribution. This is because it is a continuous data. All this is part of discrete data. So you have binomial or Poisson distribution. You have hundreds of distribution. Don't worry about all that. But we are talking about the least minimum and the commonly used ones. So that is why when we started DMAC, after define the measurement phase, we talked about data. That is the importance of data. First you decide what data it is. It is discrete data or continuous data. If it is continuous data, all the control charts will vary and all the hypothesis tests will vary, as I showed earlier. If it is discrete data, again, attribute data or discrete data, your control charts will vary. The type of control charts will vary and the hypothesis test will vary. So first identify the metric, identify whether it is control chart or discrete data or continuous data, then act accordingly. This is your control process, DMAIC. So what is the output of control phase? You see process chart, all documentation, process chain management. You put the documentation in place, standardize the document, monitor using control chart for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 1 year, whatever is the data period you want, evaluate the results, check for the process capability, whether it is improved or not improved, then document the results and the learnings, then close the project. This is your project life cycle, DMAIC project life cycle. So monitor and validate the process improvements in this. And DMAIC cycle will look like this, that is define, measure, analyze, improve, control. Improve the process, you have 2 inputs using control chart, whatever control chart you want, you can use. If there is any problem, go back to the analyze phase and review the process. If it is okay, fine, you standardize it and then give it to production department so that they can do the regular production, because this is all based on data and sampling. That is first lot production. That is sample production of 30, 50, any number they do. And if it is okay, then it go for regular production. This is what DMAIC cycle does. This is in short your DMAIC. Now we will see what is DFSS. We talked about DMAIC for process improvement. Now DFS is for new product development or NPD, new design.
You don't need to improve your process. Sometimes the existing process is so bad, you need to throw it away and design a new one. And sometimes you don't even have a process to improve. For example, when developing a new product and the processes that go with it. Fortunately, the Design for Six Sigma methodology addresses just this situation. When improving an existing process, you are primarily dealing with one variable as you develop methods to make that process better. When you are completely redoing a process or designing a new process, there are a lot more unknowns. This is the most significant difference between improving a process and designing a new process. And in most cases, new processes and products have even more focus on meeting the customer's performance objectives. Design for Six Sigma helps to ensure that your new product will meet those customer needs and that the processes can meet Six Sigma capabilities. Your focus is on those attributes that are critical to quality in the eyes of the ultimate customer. Design for Six Sigma uses the methodology of define, measure, analyze, design, and verify, a slight variation on the DMAIC model. In the define phase, you identify the process and clearly define the issues to be addressed. You then measure the critical to quality attributes and analyze customer requirements as you develop a concept for your new process. In the very important design phase, you specify the details of the new process, review your progress, and approve the final version of the process. Lastly, in the verify phase, you develop a working prototype, test it, and create a plan for implementing the process. The DMA-DV methodology concentrates more on the final customer and uses such tools as the voice of the customer to determine and measure their expectations. Voice of the customer is a set of tools to help you better understand the needs and expectations of your customer. The most common tool is a survey method. I'm sure you've seen this at restaurants, for example, where they ask you to provide feedback regarding your dining experience. Companies use this information to redesign existing processes and create new products and services, all part of a continuous improvement culture. Results of the surveys are used as input to a house of quality model that helps you to align customer requirements and technical requirements as you design the new process. When developing new products, this is a key aspect of the quality function deployment approach that assists the design, manufacturing, and marketing of that new product and its related processes. You may come across the DMA-DV process by other names, such as DMEDI, which stands for Define, Measure, Explore, Develop, and Implement. The two models employ the same basic techniques to accomplish the same goals. They just use a different name. Some companies simply refer to their analytical model as Design for Six Sigma, or in some cases, Design for Lean Six Sigma. Again, the objectives are the same regardless of the title used, and quite often the terms are used interchangeably. Design for Six Sigma is a business strategy for executing important projects that require significant design changes. There is a much greater emphasis here on translating customer needs into business requirements in order to create new processes, new services, and new products.
Yeah. Here he was explaining about DFSS methodology. DFSS means it is designed for Six Sigma. That is DFSS. Under DFSS, you have DMA-DV. So the difference between DMA-DV and DMA-IC is DMA are same. The methodology is same for DMA. I is improvement because it is a process improvement. You have a problem, you have an existing process, you have to improve the process. That is why you have I there. Here it's a new design, new product development. So you have DMA-D, that is design. Define, measure, analyze, then design, then verify, DMA-DAV. So that is the difference between DMA-IC and DMA-DV. In some companies, it is DMA DV is also called as DMA DOV. O is for optimize. So optimize the process, then you verify the process. So depending on what tools you use, you can either call it as DMA DV or DMA DOV. That is define, measure, analyze, design, optimize, verify. In define, you have some tools. Measure, you have some tools. Analyze and design, you have many tools which comes under design. Then optimize, again, there are many tools. Then verify. This is for new design or new product development or NPD or NPI or new process improvement or new process development. It can be for anything, but this is all new. The previously what we saw was DMA IC is for existing process improvement. Okay, that is the difference. DFSS is quality by design. You build in quality by redesigning the product or designing a new product. Now, where do you use DFSS for NPD in NPD project? In NPD new product development or new product introduction, you have DFSS methodology. That is your idea documentation, project scope, business process, development, launch, and production launch. That is giving to the customer. So in this, you have this is the design life cycle. In this design life cycle, you have design for Six Sigma process. This is your DMA DV. Understand the customer needs. That is your QFD. Initial, define the initial solution, maybe using a Kano analysis or QFD. Then model design performance using your DOE methodology or any methodology. Optimize, again, either DOE methodology or regression analysis. Verify the design. It can be using software, or it can be statistical, or it can be experimental, verifying the design. Then control the design by verifying and checking using control charts. So there are various tools which can be used in your new product development lifecycle. To give an example of NPI process, you have gate reviews. Your stage gate 1, 2, 3, 4. Depending on the product life cycle or project life cycle, you have number of gates defined. It can go up to 9 or 10 gates also when it is bigger projects. In each phase, you have some tools to be used. That is define, measure, analyze, again design, optimize, then verify. So these are the tools which you'll be using in your DFSS methodology in your product life cycle from start till finish. Again, it depends on what type of product it is, whether it is a individual component or a assembly or a sub-assembly. Depending on many things, your tools will vary. The usage of the tools will vary. Design for Six Sigma is integrated into your NPI, new product introduction, or new product design process. Now your DFSS triangle has got 3 things. That is your schedule, how fast you want to bring it to the market. That is your cycle time or time to market. How do you reduce it? Then how good is your quality levels? What do you measure? What are quality metrics do you have? Then finally, cost, your cost reduction. How can you reduce the cost? How can you manage the cost so that it is competitive in the market? Because you are benchmarking against your competitors' products or components. So whatever you design or whatever you introduce has to match with the competitor products cost. So these are the 3 things what you have to bring into your design. And for that, you have different tools which can be used. Now, vehicles for Six Sigma, that is what you have seen so far is your DMAC and DFSS. You start with the basic ground tools, low-hanging tools, use your quality basic tools, 7QC tools or something. Then you go to 3 Sigma level, 4 Sigma level, then use some of the Six Sigma tools, that is your DMAC. When you reach a saturation point, you come out with DFSS. That is completely redesign the product, because you cannot, as I told you, you cannot keep on improving the product. So if you hit a wall against which you cannot go, through which you cannot go, then you try to jump over it and come out with a new design. That is your DFSS methodology. That is how you use both DMAC and DFSS in tandem. And that is what many companies they do. They improve the process. Once they improve the process, then they come out with a new design. So opportunities for improvement, where all will you use this Six Sigma, either DMAC or DFSS? You have a lot of opportunities. You have it in marketing department to reduce sales per unit volumes, reduce the time required to enter the market. You have shipping or supply chain department. Then you have business development department. Then you have customer service department or your HR department, accounts and finance and IT. You have various departments in industry where you can deploy either DMAC or DFSs as appropriate. It is not that it is only for manufacturing. It can be for direct department and also for indirect department, even HR. Reduce cycle time for entering, reducing the hiring time or the bench time, waiting time, or IT department to improve the SLA. Finance department, improve cash management, reduce the cycle time. You have various projects or various processes which can be identified in various departments to use Six Sigma. And the industries where they're used, industries are R&D and product design industries where they use Six Sigma for reducing time to market. Examples, GE, Boeing, Agilent, Motorola. You name the industry, they're used. It's not only the big industries, even small industries, they're using Six Sigma. Next, telecom industries. Various telecom industries like Bharti Telecom, France, Reliance, Siemens, Airtel, you name the industry, they're using Six Sigma for improving accuracy, timeliness, reducing work congestion, reducing timeliness of billing, etc. etc. Next, information time, IT industry and software development. Again, all companies, all major companies, IT industries, they follow Six Sigma. TCS, Infosys, HP, Birlasoft, N number of industries are there which follow Six Sigma. Next, textile garment industries. Any type of garment industry you take, they follow Six Sigma process improvement. It can be Six Sigma when I tell, it can be DMAC or DFSs. It can be both. Next, engineering, manufacturing industry. You know what it is. You take any manufacturing industry, there are hundreds of manufacturing industries which follow Six Sigma. Either it is medium scale or large scale industry, they follow Six Sigma. Continuous process industries, maybe paint production or bottle filling, medicine or juices, or it can be any type of process industry, they follow Six Sigma, like Reliance, Asian Paints, GE, Wipro, anything. So there are any category of industry you take, they follow Six Sigma. Automotive industries, N number of industries. You take Ford, Hyundai, Tata Motors, GM, Maruti, Telco, you name the industry, they follow Six Sigma. So it has become a so common approach in that any type of industry, service industry or a manufacturing industry, they follow Six Sigma. It is part and parcel of their daily activity. Is what I wanted to convey. So in short, what we do is the continuous improvement journey. For that, you can use Six Sigma, you can use 7QC tools, you can use Lean, you can use any process methodology, improvement methodologies you want. And all are based on your PDCA cycle. Plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check. Once you do it, then restart from the done to improve the business process improvement. That is your BPI. End goal is your business process has to improve. Bottom line has to improve. Quality is your whose responsibility? It is everybody's responsibility. It is not quality department's responsibility. It is everybody's responsibility. Because quality means doing it right when no one is looking. That's what Henry Ford has done. Also remember that good quality is cheap. It is poor quality that is expensive. It is always cheaper to produce good quality. If you want to produce bad quality, that is really difficult and really expensive. You have to put efforts to produce bad quality. But if you follow the process, normally, automatically, the parts are good and the quality will be good. Yes, sir. Now it's open to questions. This is in short about the basics of Lean and Six Sigma. Anything you want to ask?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It's a nice presentation and very in depth. I hope the presentation was been taken.
No, this is
Any questions, anybody?
Very much in brief.
Yeah, though it was brief for you, it is too much, we can say, in a depth for the newcomers who are not knowing much about the Six Sigma.
Yeah, for them it is too much.
Yeah, it is too much.
Right.
I have one question actually. It is a very simple question. You're talking about variation. You have shown that rope picture, and you're talking about variation and mean,
Right.
isn't it?
Right.
So I will just say, try to understand exact what you want to say. I will just giving an example. You can say 4 numbers are there. You can say 10, 12, 8, and 10. The average is again 10,
Mm.
correct?
Mm.
But the mean is, the variation is 4. So
Correct.
you want to mean that same, isn't it?
Right.
So the difference between 8 and 12 is too much. There is 40% difference is almost there.
The range is high, but mean is
Range is
same.
high. Variation is there.
Variation is there, but mean is same.
Mean is same. Okay.
Right.
So
Correct.
many times we take an average and try to, we can say, make a pull ourselves or make
Correct.
ourselves satisfactory that our data or our system is in line. But actually, considering the variation or the range, it is too much away. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
that is why we say don't rely on the mean. First, you talk about
Yeah.
variation, reduce the variation, then talk about the mean. That is the
Yeah.
reason. Because you will be carried away by mean. You will
Very
feel
good,
that
sir.
it is correct. I showed you the picture of a rope. Remember that rope?
Yes, I remember. That is what I was asking.
So rope, that variation is high. That is why the rope gets cut, because the chain is as strong as the weakest.
Anytime it can get broken.
Yeah, they say no, the chain is as strong as the weakest link.
Correct.
So see that it is consistent. Then you talk about improving the mean.
Yeah. Any more question or any? You can put in the chat box or you can directly ask. I have one more question, sir. You are talking about the hello.
Yes, sir.
You are talking about the defects. That is, sorry, not defects. It's a
Pardon?
the symptoms regarding Six Sigma. How we can understand the variation is too large, or how we can able to get
That you
it
come to know
reduced.
once you collect the data. Once you have
Pardon?
a problem, once you have a bottleneck identified, that is the area for improvement, then collect the relevant data from that area. Then after you collect the data, if you analyze the data, you know what is the variation, what is the problem. Is it meeting the target requirements of your metrics or not?
Okay. There's one question: which tools can be used in Six Sigma to check whether sampling data is correct or not, or it is relevant or not?
There are many tools as appropriate. In some cases, you can use the tool to check the mean. Some cases, you can use it to check the median or the mode. All are different. So based on the situation, you'll have to check whether the mean, median, or mode. Those are the basic things what you can check. It's not that you have to check all three for all the tools or all the situations. It depends on case-to-case basis.
Any more questions?
I've got a question. Sridhar.
Sir, can you take your presentation little back? I'm not remembering exact what I want to understand. Want to ask.
Which one?
4 or 5 slides back, your presentation, little bit.
Where, which slide?
Yeah, just go behind.
Which slide? DMAC or?
One minute, sir. Yeah, common cause and this special cause. Can you just elaborate that?
Common causes are present all the time, has got a small effect. For example, I'll give you a simple example.
Yeah.
You come to the office, you are supposed to come to the office at 9 o'clock every day.
Correct.
But what time do you reach the office? Maybe around 8:50 to 9:05 or 9:10.
Yes.
The variation will be plus or minus 5 minutes.
Correct.
That is because of your common causes. Because you cannot come exactly at 9 o'clock or 8:55, because there will be slight variations here and there.
Yeah.
But sometimes you will reach the office maybe at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock because of some reason, because of tire puncture or accident in the road, or some VIP vehicle is passing, or you have to drop somebody to the railway station, you come late.
Or you may be ill, or
So
some
you know
guests
the
are coming.
specific reason why you are coming late. You know the reason for that. That is your special cost. Remove that
Oh.
special cost data from your data point. Again, it will come back to normal common cost variation. That is the difference between common cost and special cost.
So for that, you have to verify your data and then you
Verify
can
the
decide
data
whether the
and-
cause is common or.
Yeah, see what are the
special.
common, is a data points which is very much away. If it is very much away, that means it is a special cost. Remove that special cost, then you come back to common causes
Oh,
with small variations. Then you start improving on that process. You
okay,
cannot
great.
remove that small variations. It will be there in any process, but improve on that process. Reduce the variation. That is process improvement.
Great. Okay. There's a question: how do you decide this problem is to be solved by Six Sigma, or cannot be solved by lean methods?
It's nothing like that. You can even have a Kaizen problem. You can force fit it into a Six Sigma template and say it is a Six Sigma project. It is very easy. There is nothing like it is a Six Sigma project or a Kaizen project. Anything can be done in any way you want because it is only the tools what you'll be using finally. Because if you take it as a Six Sigma project, you will be talking more on data. It will be more elaborate and it will be slightly better presented rather than a Kaizen project. Kaizen projects are meant for very small projects. But Six Sigma is at a slightly bigger scale. That is your green belt project, black belt project, and master black belt projects will be at much higher scale where you have a lot of cost reduction, cost improvements or savings. So depending on the type of problems what you have, you can always classify as what type of project it is.
Do you mean to say the Kaizen problems are tending towards the attribute side? Little bit.
Kaizen projects are normally done by QC circles, shop floor activities, shop floor people. Even Six Sigma projects also can be done by them. But Kaizen are small improvements. As a definition, it is small improvement, small
Okay.
projects. Six Sigma is at a higher scale, bigger scale.
There's one more question. What is the difference in part per million and part per million opportunities? Can you please explain it in the manufacturing item?
Difficult. Okay, I'll tell you. You know what is part per million. You take million parts, that is parts per million, defects per million, DPO or DPMO, right? DPO. Per opportunity means the number of ways in which you can make an error. That is the definition of opportunity. For example, you take a case of a turning of a shaft, a small shaft, which has got an ID, which has got an OD and a length of 50 mm, ID of something, 5 mm, 10 mm ID, and a OD of 25 mm. Okay, so how many characteristics are there in that part? How many ways you can make an error? You can make an error in length. You can make an error in ID. You can make an error in OD. You can make an error in the surface finish. Correct. These are the 4 possible areas where you can make errors or which can be out of specification limits. So that means you have 4 opportunities for making an error. Got it?
Yeah.
So that is number of opportunities into number. DPO is your DPMO, defects per million opportunities. So when you talk about Six Sigma, it is 3.4 defects per million opportunities. So number of opportunities are 4 into number of parts. These are the total number of opportunities in a production of 100 numbers. 100 into 4, because you have 4 opportunities per part, and you have 100 parts produced. So 400 is the number of opportunities. But 100 is the parts. Number of parts are 100. Number of opportunities are 400. So when you talk about Six Sigma, it is 3.4 defects per million opportunities, not million parts. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. That is the difference.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much for your nice presentation, and hope
other questions?
everybody have understood it and learn a lot. I think there are one more question. Do you mean to say that it is characteristics based in opportunities?
Yeah, based on opportunity.
Yeah.
That is DPMO, defects per million opportunities. That is the definition.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for your nice presentation and time.
If
You have
anybody
already.
wants to contact, you have my mail ID and phone number, you can contact.
Yes, I will also share it along with the video link in the evening to all the group members as well. Thank you very much for all the participants for your time and patient hearing. Hope you have been learned a lot and able to utilize in your daily routine and daily work as well. And Siddharth sir, thank you very much. I think this is the third or fourth session we have conducted combinedly, and hoping that we'll have many more sessions to come with you. Will get a lot of knowledge about the quality aspects, tool management, and everything. So thank you very much for your support and your cooperation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and hope the journey continues and association continues as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
So we close it here. Thank you very much for the patient hearing, and good night, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.